I want to go now to James Brown, who's a former captain in the Australian Army. He served in Afghanistan and Iraq. He's a former president of the New South Wales RSL, and he's a consultant to the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Good to talk to you, James. I want to ask you about the census because one of the new questions in the census last night was just asking people about whether they had military service in this country. You, I understand, were instrumental in getting that question into the census. Tell us why you wanted it in there and what it's going to help to governments deliver in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Look, I was really proud to be ticking that box on the census last night. I know a lot of other people were as well. The reason that question is so essential is because we've been dealing with all these veterans issues over the last few years, particularly, whether it's veteran suicide or making sure that our veterans have got the mental health support they need. And the government has been doing that on a guess of how many veterans there are in the country. They think there might be about 600,000. We haven't counted for many, many, many decades. So this question is really important. It'll help government work out where veterans are. It'll give them more information about, physical care needs that veterans have, for example, and it'll also it'll help government be able to target services to where they're needed the most for veterans. We're spending $12 billion a year on veterans. Let's make sure that money's spent efficiently and that we can actually put the services as close to the clusters of veterans and where they live. And I think it'll show some really surprising results. For the first time, we'll have a picture of where our veteran community is, how big it is, and what its needs are. And, when I first started looking at this question in 2017, it was on the list. I think it was one of 8 possible questions that might have ended up on this census. It took a lot of campaigning. I went and met with the Prime Minister individually on this in late 2018 to push the case for this question to get up. And really grateful that it did. And a credit to people like Darren Chester and Andrew Ishworth and a lot of others who supported it.
Well, it's great. It sounds like there'll be good practical outcomes can flow from it, from that information, which is a great thing. And I can understand you feeling proud ticking that box, because I certainly felt like a Lena ticking no.
It's not too late, Chris. It's not too late.
I think it might be. I think it might be the way my limbs are going at the moment. Hey, James, just on your service, I know that you served in Afghanistan primarily, as well as Iraq, of course. Now, we see, as we all expected, I think, the Taliban now sweeping through Afghanistan with terrible, dire consequences, especially for women and girls, let alone democracy and greater freedoms. How do you feel as an Afghan veteran, where there were 41 Australian lives lost and an enormous amount of injury? You went through all that sacrifice. Has it now been all in vain? Should America be halting its withdrawal plans?
Look, America won't halt its withdrawal plan. It's committed now, and it's got the process in place. It's already given up a number of its bases, and I don't think it'll reverse progress on that. And look, it is hard to watch. I mean, I read a story the other day about an Afghan National Army unit that surrendered to a Taliban unit and were then all executed afterwards. And we're seeing horrific tales, and it's a reminder of what we went there in the first place to try and put a stop to. The Taliban have made some gains, but they're in fairly remote places like Farah, which is, very western, very rural, very remote. I think it's easy to overstate how much of a force the Taliban are at the moment. You would expect they will make steady progress, but really, the Afghans have a lot of fight in them, and I think the key to the Afghan government remaining will be its ability to keep paying its army and police, and its ability to maintain its relationships externally. And we're seeing a lot of activity there. We saw the Chinese meeting with some representatives from the Taliban, the Chinese foreign minister meeting with representatives of the Taliban recently. They're hedging their bets. There's going to be a lot of countries in the region hedging their bets, and there's going to be a lot of countries in the region that are rubbing their hands at the fact that the US has pulled out. I mean, Iran will be a big winner here from having less US military forces right up on their border.
Well, James, thanks so much for your service, and thanks so much for sharing all those thoughts with us.
Thanks, Chris.